Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will tell you about the small insects that are found in most orchid soil, which cause the orchid to die, its leaves to sag down, and flowers to fall out. And how do we get rid of these bugs? This orchid is an orchid from the forest. Mostly, I don't change the soil until the orchids I get my hands on are fading. But flower on this orchid began to fall out earlier than its time, and I see small insects on it. Now I'll show them to you with a magnifying glasses. These little bugs are called mealybugs. Because the leaves of an orchid are large, it does not wrap its leaves. It lives directly in the soil of an orchid, and with normal medicine, you can't cope with them. After a certain period of time, they form their own cocoons and begin to be able to protect themselves from drugs. Not every florist is the same, but some florists need to pay attention to them. If they put used orchid soils next to them, this mealybug, which comes from other plants, will come to your home with your orchid and can infect other plants. This mealybug wraps the roots over time, preventing the plant from absorbing residual vitamin and water. After a while, the plant's flowers starts to die and starts to fade. You can't just deal with the changing the soil, so I'll tell you what to do about it. Look, you can see more clearly here. It's visible on the soil right now. The mealybug. The flowers will fall out and you will constantly try to give vitamins, but because this mealybug has its roots, you will not be able to get rid of it, and eventually you will have to throw it in the trash. In a video on my channel, I described how to deal with the mealybug on the pepper plant. But since this orchid is a little different, we can solve it by boiling hot pepper and pouring it with a spray like that one. First, we separate the soil and we pull the sponge out of here so that its roots don't rot. Now we have to do root care, and so I want you to see how root care is done. Look, as you can see here, the flowers are fading and falling out. Now we are going to try to help this orchid and save it. After fully opening the soil, we cut the rotten and dried roots. I check the orchid and keep the green ones and cut the dried ones. Don't worry, you don't damage the roots when you cut them, so you don't have to scare about it. These roots will grow again, and even with a small root, the orchid will still survive. For a healthy orchid, you always need to cut the dried ones, so be careful to not cut the healthy ones. These hard dried roots are called air roots, and we need to cut them as well, but you don't have to worry about it because they will grow back again in time. If you have noticed, I survey the roots with my hand and we leave the roots that are plump. We are careful not to cut them. We cut roots and that feel dry and runny when you hold them. As you can see, root care is not that dangerous. After cutting the roots that are dry, we pour 2 tablespoons of Arabic soap into 2 liters of water to disinfect the residual roots. And then we will start to mix it really well. We insert the roots of the orchid into this liquid mixture of Arab soap and water and clean the soil on it and mealybugs from the orchid with soft movements. After cleaning the roots with Arabic soap and water, we now need to rinse the roots with clean water. Try not to put the leaves in the water. As you just saw, the leaves are a little wet. Now I'll set them up with a napkin. If they get wet, they rot, so you need to be careful about not get them wet. And we don't forget to clean our orchid pot, or what we are doing won't mean anything without cleaning the orchid pot. Be sure to check the orchid soil you buy, make sure it is not damp and doesn't have mealybugs. If you can check the orchid before you buy, pull an orchid soil out of the middle and see if it's black or has mealybug on it. Because the mealybugs can transfer to other orchids if they're close enough to them. Now we are placing our new orchid soil and compress it as it's placed so that the orchid will wrap all its roots in the soil and the orchid will stand upright. Now to make our orchid healthier, I prepared this garlic aspirin water a day in advance. What we are putting in this water? We cut out 3 or 4 garlic cloves and crush 1 aspirin, and then you can apply it to your orchid the next day. Now, since there are pieces of garlic in that water, we will first filter it, and we will apply the drained water directly to the soil of the orchid. We cleared our orchid and we cleared our pot. There is nothing else to do now. Now we will resurrect our orchid with our new aspirin water. Now we are pouring all the water. Be careful to not make a contact with water and leaves. All the soil in it will be moistened and wet. You can also apply this mixture of garlic water and aspirin to other orchids in your home. You cut the garlic with a knife, throw it in a jar, and then crush the aspirin and add it to the jar. And you can leave it for a day or two and use it. Now we are waiting for water to drain from all the orchid soil. After water is drained, we remove it from the container so that our orchid can continue to receive the sunlight. I'm saying it again, after you drain the water from the orchid, don't forget to take it out from the container, or it won't get sunlight because of the container if you don't take it out. Now we have saved this orchid and the mealybug is no more because we have put it in a neat container and disinfected it. After 2 days, we are doing the process we just did with orchid vitamin again. I think the recipe should be like this. 1 liter in a lid of orchid vitamin, put that water into orchid soil and make sure you wet all the orchid soil after that. Apply this procedure once a week and you'll see how beautiful your orchid blossoms. If you also like this video, don't forget to click like and please subscribe to my channel and activate the bell to watch my next videos.